Good day. I am Divya Kumar, roll number 15 from section A. Today I am going to talk about GST, its objectives, its benefits, and finally its impact on the economy of India. So, what is GST? G stands for goods, S for services, and T for tax. Goods and services tax is one of the most important economic reforms on the government's agenda. This is one reform which affects all of us. It is a comprehensive tax levy on manufacture, sale, and consumption of goods and services at a national level. It will almost substitute all the indirect taxes that are levied by the center and the state governments in India. Now, what are the objectives of GST? So, one of the main objective of GST is to eliminate the double taxation, that is the cascading effects of taxes on production and distribution cost of goods and services. Secondly, the exclusion of these cascading effects, which is the tax on tax, will significantly improve the competitiveness of the original goods and services in the market. The introduction of a GST to replace the existing tax structure is not only desirable but imperative. It will also give full credit for input taxes collected, which we'll see later how this is beneficial. So, what is the situation outside of India regarding GST? So, let's talk about how the world has implemented GST till date. France was the first country to introduce GST in around 1954. Worldwide, there are almost 150 countries that have introduced GST in one form or the other, and most of them have a unified GST system. Brazil and Canada follow a dual system vis-a-vis India is going to introduce. In China, GST applies only to goods and the provision of repairs, replacements, and processing services. So, France and Germany have a tax rate of around 19%. New Zealand has around 15%, while Canada and Japan have a GST of around 5%. So, what are the major benefits of GST? Majorly, it will be the tax gain. The biggest benefit of GST is that it will reduce tax evasion. Now, there is a very logical reason as to how GST will help in reducing tax evasion. All the traders will insist on taking bills for all their purchases. This is because the distributor will get credit for all of the taxes paid at the previous stage. So, this is what I was talking about earlier. In the present scenario, the distributor has to bear the burden of excise duty. Therefore, for him, it makes more sense to simply avoid paying taxes. However, after the introduction of GST, it will be more beneficial to purchase goods on invoice. Now, if the customer himself insists on taking the bill, we can assume that the tax evasion will fall. You will also buy from only those who have already paid taxes on what they are supplying. This is one of the biggest advantages of GST. The second benefit is that GST will give more money to the underdeveloped state. So, why is Gujarat a developed state in India? Why can't industries come up in backward states like Bihar and Jharkhand? The problem mainly is the lack of infrastructure. Governments in Bihar cannot provide basic facilities such as electricity and water. This is because these states are not rich. Why are these states not rich? Because the tax collections are much less compared to the other states. GST will ensure that the tax collection in other states also rise because GST is a consumption based tax. Since it is consumption based, the tax collection will go to states in which goods are consumed more and not where they are manufactured more. Now, where will goods be consumed more? This will be consumed in places where the population is more. So, as a result, the per capita tax collection in the economy across various states will even out. This will be another advantage to the economy because taxes will accrue more to states that have need of money, which in turn will get developed. The third benefit of GST is it will remove the location bias, thereby giving support to the smaller businesses. Another big advantage in GST is that it will even out the tax structure of various states. Therefore, I can set up my factory in any state of the country without having to worry about the tax differences. In an ideal scenario, taxes should not be an hindrance to my investment decisions. In India, it will go this way once GST is introduced. This means that even in undeveloped locations, more businesses can come up. So now, what is the impact of GST on the Indian economy? Growth and inflation are two key factors to consider on a change in tax laws. On both these factors, the actual quantifiable benefit on the economic growth and inflation is hard to judge at this point. For one thing, the actual rate of GST is unknown. There is a 17 to 18% tax rate that is doing the rounds, but it's not yet finalized. A markedly higher rate can hurt growth, and a very lower rate can upset the government and the state fiscal budgets. Secondly, the sharing between the states and the center is also not clear. Once the system is in place, the actual GST benefits will show up only over a long term and not in the next year or two. Some sectors will see a heavier impact from GST than the others. Because GST is a complete overhaul of the taxation system, it will also have a pervasive effect. Some of the changes that are anticipated to be there on the Indian economy are a boost to GDP by 1 to 1.5%. India will emerge as a single uniform market. There will be easy movement of good across state borders. Exports will become more competitive, and local manufacturing would become more cost competitive. There will also be statutory forms that are required for octroi, tax, etc. that will be eliminated. So how can GST change overall company perspective? The first thing is that it will ensure cost reduction. Removal of entry tax and octroi will automatically reduce costs for manufacturing companies. The input tax credit on both goods and services will lead to lower taxes throughout the chain. 3. Logistics and supply chain costs will also drift lower because of the removal of entry barriers. The next factor to consider is the margin expansion. Since there is an overall reduction in costs, the company profitability can improve. Companies usually allocate resources based on the tax laws, which is not an efficient way to do it. Now, because of the GST, they'll allocate resources based on the infrastructure provided by the state. For large companies, achieving economies of scale may become easier. For service companies, the ability to claim input credit on equipment they buy against taxes will additionally boost profit margins. Coming to the price dynamics, companies will see heightened price competition, and the extent to which the tax savings will be utilized depends on the company's efficiency. Some companies may pass on the benefit that they're getting by these lower taxes to their customers, and some companies may not be able to do so. Unorganized players will also move into the organized fold. On the flip side, depending on the tax rate, services especially can get a lot more expensive, and this can dent the consumer discretionary spending. Until such time, cheaper goods will compensate for the consumer's monthly bills. Therefore, what GST will actually do is to change the way in which Indian companies operate. And this change in operations is what will impact the long-term growth of industry and economy. So this is all about GST and its impact. Thank you.